It's been 11 years, and the wait is finally over. Left 4 Dead 3 is here, and I'm lucky enough to have actually gotten into the alpha testing for Back 4 Blood. So today we're going to talk about how the alpha is going. I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on the gameplay and what the game does right and what the game is lacking in some places. But with the intro out of the way, let's finally talk about Back 4 Blood. To start off, I want to say that I am a massive fan of the Left 4 Dead games. I'd even go as far to say that Left 4 Dead 2 is in my top 5 favorite games of all time. It goes something like Halo, Gears of War, Left 4 Dead, Resident Evil, and Dead Space. Something like that. So when talking about Back 4 Blood, I'm going to be drawing a lot of comparisons between Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood because this game is literally the result of Valve refusing to make a new Left 4 Dead and Turtle Rock Studios finally saying,
"Fine. I'll do it myself."
But anyways, let's move on to first impressions. The first thing that comes to mind is you can really feel that Left 4 Dead DNA when you're playing. It kind of feels like when you run into an old friend from middle school that you haven't seen in decades. They look different, sound different, and they have a different style, but that sense of familiarity is still there. The game is a little rough around the edges. Obviously, it's an alpha test, but when you hear the sounds of a horde coming in and you see how low your health is, as you and your team are trying to scrounge together any bit of ammo you can to survive, there's few games that can replicate that. Holy shit, there are so many of them feeling that is what my hero Jeff Ramsey calls Left 4 Dead fear. And I'm glad to say that for the most part, this game pretty much nails that feeling. Back 4 Blood implements a lot of new mechanics that set it apart from the games before it. These are things like the item box where you can buy weapon attachments, player upgrades, health items, and grenades using the currency known as copper. One thing I found really cool was being able to customize your weapons. You can buy attachments like scopes, tactical stocks, extended mags, and red dot sights. Personally, I really loved the red dot sight because I kind of think the ADS was a little bit slow in this game, and the red dot kind of let me play more along the lines of Left 4 Dead 2 where you just shoot from the hip. And the other big new feature is what's called the card system. The card system essentially activates new modifiers each round that affect the gameplay in different ways. The game triggers a card that will affect the game in a way that hinders you, but then you as the player get to choose from 3 cards that benefit you each round. These maps can range anywhere from having a deep fog roll in and cover the map, which is really cool and atmospheric, to allowing you to regenerate small amounts of HP with melee attacks. In my be it short experience with the card system so far, the cards don't drastically alter the gameplay, and I think that actually benefits the game. Let me explain. Cards offer enough change to where you have to think about how you want to play round to round, but it doesn't make it feel like a drastically different game, which is good because the game has a fun and addictive gameplay loop that I don't really want to change drastically from round to round. But what really adds to the game's replayability is the game director. The game director acts as an AI that analyzes how you're playing each round and adjusts the amount of ammo and weapons dropped, where they are placed, along with where special infected are, how many, and even how often you are hit with hordes of the riddled. Yeah, that's what they call the zombies in this game. Quick rant. Why is it such common practice in movies, TV, and games these days where people just refuse to call the zombies zombies? I mean, like, we're supposed to assume that these universes didn't have zombie movies in them or something. Like, walkers, biters, and riddled just don't have the same punch and flair as zombies or infected do. But that's the end of my rant. Moving on, I want to talk about some of the fun experiences I had in the game that really stuck with me already. While I was playing Back 4 Blood, I met a lot of really cool people while playing. Nearly every lobby I was in had people talking in game chat or at the very least using the in-game chat features. That's something I found really refreshing because game chat and proximity chat are something that have been pretty absent in games these days, and I miss it. Hearing the laughs and screams of my teammates as we tried fighting off horde after horde and sprinting towards the safe room as we heard the guttural sounds of the riddled behind us really adds to the fun of the game. One time when my team and I were swapping supplies and running from the big boss called an ogre, one of the guys was standing just a little too close to the doorway, and the ogre literally reached in and grabbed him through the door. He's screaming in terror, and the rest of us were just standing there laughing and wiping tears from my eyes after watching him just get randomly snagged and dragged out of sight. Things just went from being like so calm and casual to all hell breaking loose, and that's one of the main things that I love about these games. They just make for some really good, like, organic gameplay moments that you don't really get in other games. But now I want to shed some light on parts of the game that I think could use some work or that didn't really sit right with me. One of the things that really stuck out to me immediately was the lack of audio cues and ambient music. The Left 4 Dead games used music not only to set the overall tone for any given situation, but it would also give the player crucial information about what was happening in the game. For For example, when a special infected would be near, a sound cue unique to that kind of special infected would play, not only making the player feel on edge, but also adding to the overall creepy feeling of the game. Unique sound cues would play whenever a horde was triggered by a car alarm, and the music would really ramp up whenever you were really in for a fight. Now, in Back 4 Blood, there isn't really that creepy or tense ambiance. There's a few big reasons that kind of work together to really make me feel this way, and I want to take some time to explain why. The main reason is also one of the major differences that I noticed between Back 4 Blood and Left 4 Dead, and that's that the special zombies aren't really lurking about anywhere. There's no hunter hiding in a bathroom waiting to pounce on you as soon as you open the door. There's not a jockey that's just laughing maniacally a few alleys over from you.
Reloading.
Instead, the specials are just kind of mixed in with the horde when the fighting starts. This also just means that there's really no need for creepy audio cues or a creepy ambient soundtrack to make the player feel on edge. What I think made the Left 4 Dead games so great is how perfectly they mixed action and horror into the gameplay, and how equally integral both were to the tone of the game. Back 4 Blood seems to be more strictly an action game, which by itself is okay, but when you add in the context that this is being marketed as Left 4 Dead 3 even by Turtle Rock themselves, I think the game needs that kind of horror and creepy aesthetic. I know it's an alpha right now and there's probably a lot more to the game, but I just think it kind of feels like the game is lacking that kind of big personality that Turtle Rock is so good at implementing.
I have not come this far to die now.
Moving on to more of the gameplay side of things, I have a few thoughts. The first is that supplies throughout the game are scarce, and I mean scarce. The game approaches ammo and supplies differently than Left 4 Dead in the sense that there's certain ammo for certain guns. It's not just an ambiguous pile of ammo sitting on the floor that anyone can pull from for any gun. Not only can just a single player pick it up and use it, but if you're like me and pretty much only using the AK-47 and are only finding shotgun and sniper ammo, you're pretty much effed. That's one of the biggest problems I had while running through the alpha is I just kept running out of ammo for my gun. And adding to this problem is that the game actively encourages you to stick to one gun that you like and upgrade it as you go by adding attachments to it and upgrading certain stats on it like your ammo capacity. So the fact that the game rewards you for holding on to your weapon but rarely gives you ammo for it is extremely frustrating. Having to drop a decked out AK-47 for a basic low-level shotgun because of how desperate you are for ammo is a real kick in the balls. Along with ammo, health items I found to be also very rare to come across in the wild. Really, the only surefire opportunity you have to get a health pack is at the start of the level when you have to buy it from the safe room, making you choose between buying ammo, weapon upgrades, grenades, or a health pack that your team is probably going to need later. Because this game is difficult, like excessively difficult at times, even on Classic, which is the easiest difficulty. It's all these things that come together to add what feels like almost an artificial difficulty to the game and can make things a pain at times. And these aspects just kind of drag down what could be a really cool and interesting in-game progression system. Then there's a few small things that I think should be tweaked. First thing is a special infected known as the Hawkers. Hawkers are a special infected that run around the play area climbing on walls and spitting goo at you. If you get hit by the goo, you can either be slowed down or completely immobilized, unable to move, shoot, or melee. The only way to get free of the goo is for a player to run all the way over to you and knife the goo away. This is something that is pretty frustrating when it happens to you in game, especially when you compare it to something like the Smoker from Left 4 Dead, which it operates pretty similar to. The Smoker can grab you from a distance and pin you, leaving you unable to move, shoot, or melee. But there is one big and important difference. Other players can shoot either the body of the Smoker or the tongue, which is the thing that has you pinned, to free you from any distance. When you get gooed in Back 4 Blood though, your team has to drop whatever they're doing and run all the way over to you and melee the goop. In a horde scenario, getting gooed is essentially a death sentence because when everyone else is off fighting their own zombies and they're all pinned down, there's really no way that they can run all the way over to you. Being able to free the players at a distance is something that is really important for the gameplay. If you think about all the pinning enemies from Left 4 Dead, they all have direct contact with the player for a reason. The Charger grabs you and you can shoot him dead. The Jockey jumps on you and you can shoot him dead. The Hunter, the same thing, and we discussed the Smoker. Because you can't shoot the goo and free the player from a distance, it just makes the Hawker feel kind of cheap, and it's an easy fix that I hope Turtle Rock considers. Lastly, melee weapons feel a bit underpowered because of another small issue. And that's that melee weapons generally can only take out 1 or 2 zombies at a time, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Versus how in like Left 4 Dead, how you can just swipe once and take out a few that have you cornered fairly quickly. Because of that, I kind of felt that melee weapons weren't all that viable in a lot of situations, which is sad because using them was really fun and I enjoyed it. Like I said, I really enjoyed using the melee weapons, they were fun. Especially when you have the card that you gain HP back for using melee weapons, but when the horde was coming in, I felt like I couldn't really safely use it. Especially because zombies will run up to you and just hit you so quickly that by the time you'd be able to swing and hit them, you had probably taken a hit or 2 already. Again, a small fix that I hope that they consider. But the last issue that I want to talk about is kind of a big one, and that's monetization. Monetization is a touchy topic to say the least, and modern game monetization practices have the power to kill a game's player population within months, or even weeks in some cases. Look what happened to Gears 5 at launch, Battlefront 2, and most obviously and relevant to this case, Evolve, Turtle Rock's last game. Evolve was one of the games that I was most looking forward to when the new Xbox first came out. But sadly the game was lacking in content at launch, and a lot of the game was locked behind DLC paywalls, like a lot of it. Monsters and playable characters, there was seemingly more content of paid DLCs than there was in the base game. This is what I fear is going to happen to Back 4 Blood, that the base content is going to be lacking and things are going to get cut from the main game just so that they can get added in as DLCs later on. I don't think the game will survive that. Evolve certainly didn't. Back 4 Blood is already at a disadvantage in the sense that these DLCs, to me, kind of implied that there won't be the same level of mod support that there is in Left 4 Dead. How could there be? If players are making new campaigns, new characters and weapons and specials for free, then who would buy the $5 paid DLC? Left 4 Dead 2 survived for 11 years on free community-made content. And if Back 4 Blood can't not only match that, but actively shakes its players down for extra money to access the rest of the game, essentially, it is not going to see anywhere near the same level of success. Now, I understand that Left 4 Dead 2's method of monetization isn't really relevant anymore and may not be sustainable anymore in this market, but that doesn't mean that things have to go overboard like this. I hope that Turtle Rock can work with the publisher and figure out another way, because seeing a $100 price tag for a digital deluxe edition with a season pass and everything is kind of worrying. I hope they can figure something out, and I hope they reconsider. But overall, I have to say that I'm actually really pleasantly surprised with the game so far. I think the new features they implemented, like the item box and the card system, work pretty well with the gameplay so far, and it's just so surreal to be playing this game after all these years. I've been waiting for them to show Back 4 Blood for, I don't even know, it's been a long time. I've been following this for a while. But despite some small few critiques that I have, I think they could be easy fixes, like adding audio cues and ambient music, being able to shoot the player free of the Hawker's goo, and making more special riddled that kind of wait around and surprise the player, keeping everyone on their toes. Now, we haven't seen all the special enemies yet, and I'm excited to see how the game shakes out on a bigger scale. But now I want to know if you guys think this game could even possibly live up to the legacy that is Left 4 Dead, or if any of you were even lucky enough to also sneak into the alpha. Remember to leave a like on the video because it does help out my small channel in a really big way. Feel free to share the video out, and if you're new, stick around for more videos just like this one. But thank you guys for watching, and until next time, have a good one.